Hey guys, it's ayebeepee and welcome back to my channel. God, it's been a long time since I feel like I've sat here. And today we are going to be talking about another update video on Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell. I don't know if you saw the video I did on them before. I'll link it somewhere on the screen. It's a lot. So get like a notebook if you're going to watch it and haven't yet so you can take notes. I can't give you guys a complete summary of everything that happened because if you remember, that video was a rather long one. I'm going to give you as much of the information you need to know for at least this update video. Okay, the first thing you need to know is that Lori and her brother Alex have a really close relationship, like borderline weird close. There's even an ex of Alex's that has came forward to explain how Lori and Alex's relationship really led to their divorce. Her name was Debbie and she married Alex in 1992. Now, if you know anything about this case, you know that East Idaho News has done wonders for this case. They have covered every step of the way. They're awesome. They had an audio they played on their YouTube channel of a conversation that was had with Debbie.
Hi, Detective Coons. This is Debbie. I'm returning your call.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you for calling back. What is it that you can actually talk to us about regarding all of this?
So I was married to Alex many years ago, and our marriage ended within a year. But we stayed in very close contact for several years. And I spoke to Alex last, right after he had served time in jail for the assault on Joseph Ryan. And he did tell me he was still really, really mad at Joseph Ryan because of things with his sister Lori.
Okay.
Custody issues. He told me that he wanted to bait Joseph Ryan into a fight so that he could kill him. And if I had really at that time thought he was serious, because he said it in a joking way, but it was still creepy and weird. Weird enough that I never spoke to Alex again. We got married in 92.
So then you got divorced in 93?
Yeah. You know, I don't know that this helps anything with the investigation, but as soon as I married him, I didn't know his family before we got married, and there were so many crazy dynamics in that family. And it caused a lot of issues right away, and it actually made me scared and nervous.
How so?
And we thought about, there was a lot of inappropriate touching and things going on in the family, particularly between him and his sister.
So between Alex and Lori?
And Lori.
Okay. You kind of got me at a loss on this one. What do you consider inappropriate touching?
Like they were simulating sex acts, and which is not normal to me for a brother and a sister. All of this was going on in the family, in front of everybody. They had no shame.
And did it continue? Was it more than one time that you saw it?
Yeah, it was just about every time we were with them. Now, Alex and I only lived together married for about 4 or 5 months. And then I just knew that family was too weird, that I had made a big mistake, and so I got out.
How did Alex talk about Lori?
Well, he was a really, really protective big brother, but he also talked about her being hot, and he said her quite a bit, and it just kind of seemed like Alex just chased after her a lot. But they were allowed to do that in their family. So to him, he didn't think it was weird. He thought I was weird for thinking it was weird. But I didn't think he was sleeping with her.
Okay.
I just thought he had the liberty to touch her.
Did Alex ever talk about religion with you or any ideology that he had?
Yeah, he did. While he and I were married, he got excommunicated from the Mormon church. And then over the course of the years of our communicating after our divorce, I know that he said he got rebaptized and then he got excommunicated again. Then I just don't think he ever bothered to try to get rebaptized, but he was always really, really, convicted in the faith. He had very strong opinions, but where Alex is weak is he was just promiscuous.
So what makes you think he was sexually promiscuous?
Oh my goodness, because he told me. He would tell me he couldn't control sex. He would find it wherever he could find it. I was just foolish and thought, oh, he's married now, so that's going to be over.
So infidelity then, I'm assuming, was part of the issues?
The situation with his sister, it was just so blatant all the time when we were around her. And it was always Lori.
But why come forward now this far down the road from when the investigation started?
Well, like I said, at first, I couldn't even believe it. When I saw it on the news, I thought, I can't believe this happened. And then after about a month of that, then I did start trying to reach out. I tried all of those agencies that I told you about. I just couldn't get past what Alex had said. And while he may not have done that plan to Joseph, I don't know that he didn't do it to Charles. And I just couldn't live knowing he had said something like that to me and not pass it on.
And I appreciate the fact that you are reaching out to us to provide this information to us. All right, I'm going to just let you know that we record our conversations just because the prosecutors want that done, but I'm going to stop the recording now so I can actually ask for your personal information.
I swear, this story is nuts. All right, since we're talking about Joseph Ryan, let's go ahead and just talk about Lori's husbands. Yes, husbands. So Lori's first husband, she married 18 in Las Vegas, and when she got home, her dad made her divorce him. So it was very short-lived, very small. You don't really hear a whole lot about this first husband. And then her second husband is who she had her son Colby with. They divorced, though, in February 1998. And then she married Joseph Ryan, so that's her third husband. Did I say second earlier? It's her third husband. So Colby ended up taking Joseph's last name, and on top of that, they had Tylee together, and she was born in 2002. But Colby became very honest in May 2020 that Joseph Ryan abused him, and not just physically, but sexually too. Now, these claims were never proven in reasons you'll find out a little later, but Lori and Joseph end up divorcing in 2005. And then she meets a Charles Vallow. Oh, Charles, he seemed like a really good guy. And Colby said that Charles was the ultimate father figure. Now get this. Joseph Ryan dies in April 2018, supposedly from a heart attack, but he gets cremated, so nobody can ever do an extra autopsy or figure out what's going on with him and why he died. Now, in February 2019, Charles filed for divorce. You need to watch my first video to understand how crazy it got by this point, and he just really feared for his safety. He did say that Lori threatened to murder him if he didn't let her go through with this end of the world plan. She assumed that doomsday was coming in July 2020 and that this was the second coming of Christ, and he was to not get in the way of it. And then Charles was shot and killed on July 11th, 2019 by Alex. Alex claimed it was for self-defense reasons, but at first, Lori was telling everyone Charles died of a heart attack, just like Joseph died. I should mention by this point, Lori has met Chad Daybell at a podcast type convention, I think. He did a podcast called Preparing a People, and it was all about preparing for doomsday through the Latter-day Saints religion. And Lori really clinged on to this, and this is where she was getting the ideas of the end of the world coming. Her and Chad got a little too close for comfort around this time, so they were best friends, if not already sleeping together. So keep that in mind for, from Charles' death on. So the day that Charles was shot, Chad Daybell calls a funeral home.
Hello, my name is I'm with their calls. How can I help you today?
We just had a death in the family, and we really don't want anything but a cremation, and then to send the cremains to a family in Louisiana. Just a simple, nothing other than a cremation and sending him to his family for a service in Louisiana. So Is there any way to know a ballpark price on that?
Okay, let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with the pricing. What is your name, please?
It is Chad Daybell.
How do you spell the last name, please?
Dayball. Daybell.
How are you related to the person who passed?
I'm his nephew. He lives there in Chandler. I live in Iowa, so I'm just trying to help out.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, what is your uncle's name for reference, please?
He is John Daybell.
Do you have a middle name?
Myron.
And Chad, what is your phone number in case we get disconnected?
Yes. This number, 515, I don't actually know my own number. Let me look real quick.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is he at a nursing home, hospital, or residence?
He passed away in a hospital. I don't know the details. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, it's just for, to know, because sometimes it's different if it's a residential or hospital or a nursing home.
I'm thinking they're sending him to the medical examiner. I'm not sure. I should have had more information before I called. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, one moment, please, Chad. Stay on the line. Let me transfer you over to the director who can assist you with that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
What the family basically wants is just to have him cremated there in Chandler and then have its cremains shipped to New Orleans, and we'll deal with the service later. So just trying to get a ballpark price. So close, about $2,000 probably. Kind of a ballpark, yes.
Close to, yeah.
Okay, well, that helps me a lot. I'm going to call one or two others, but I'll get back to you if we come that direction. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you need anything else, give me a call.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So let's talk about Chad Daybell. Now, like I said, her and Chad met at the conference and they immediately started texting all the time. Chad claimed that he could see people's past lives and had said that they had known each other through many, but they had been married in 7 different past lives. Chad ended up writing an erotic novel of one of their past lives and sending it to Lori, who is married to Charles at the time. And now, something about Chad is he categorized people into light and dark people, and the dark people they considered like zombies, so therefore they would have to kill off all those people for the second coming of Christ. And ironically enough, just one by one, their family members started becoming a dark person. And lo and behold, Chad's wife, yeah, because he's married too, Tammy, ends up being a dark person, zombie, whatever you want to call it. And her name was Viola. He said that Tammy's personality would change soon, so therefore, when that happened, she's gotta go. And he said this about 2 weeks before her death. Yes, because Tammy dies too. But even before Tammy's death, there's proof that Lori was looking up a wedding ring on Amazon that she bought just a few days before Tammy dies. Now let's talk about Lori's children, because Colby is old enough to have moved out on with his own life. So she had Tylee still at the house, who was probably 16, 17, and then she had JJ. Now JJ was Charles' nephew, and he was being raised by Charles' parents, Larry and Kay Woodcock, which you'll hear me talk about later. You know, his outbursts could be a lot sometimes. He was very energetic, very loving, very caring, but just very high energy. So therefore, Larry and Kay had a hard time caring for him as deeply and as much as JJ needed. So while Charles and Lori were in the really good part of their marriage, they had adopted JJ, and she was a wonderful, amazing mother to him until this absolute mental breakdown. But now, saying all that, nobody had heard from these kids, like at all. And on top of that, when Charles died, she took these kids and moved them to Idaho, right near Chad's house. So their family wasn't even near them in Arizona anymore. So these kids hadn't been heard of. They can't be checked on. The family waited a little bit because Lori would pass excuses here and there. But in reality, they weren't even, well, Tylee wasn't even enrolled in school. There's so much to do with the kids. You have to go watch my other video. Like, those poor freaking kids. So the last known time to have seen these kids was September 8th, 2019. Now, they went to Yellowstone National Park, and there was photographs of them there with Lori and Alex. Now, Larry and Kay couldn't get a hold of JJ for a long time. The last time they talked to them was like a 36-second FaceTime, and that was it. And this was like, at this point, weeks after. So they called a wellness check on JJ, and the police show up to Lori's house, and Alex and Chad are out front, and Chad says he doesn't even really know her that well. He's such a piece of shit, like such a piece of shit. So when the police get here, Lori gives them the runaround. She tries to say they're with her friend and they're at the grandparents, and they're like, no, that's who called the wellness check, so they're not at the grandparents. And they just kept trying to pass the police back and forth, so maybe they would give up finding the kids. And while there's a national search going on for her kids, her and Chad moved to Hawaii, and they were still refusing to give any type of helpful information about Tylee and JJ. And actually, I think by this point, they both were like sworn to silence. They didn't speak at all. Now, Tammy's body was exhumed when all this was going on because people started being like, maybe we should look into these people's spouses that have all died. So her body was exhumed December 11th, 2019. Now get this, Alex Cox dies on December 12th, 2019. Now, he had gotten married a few weeks before this to a woman named Zulema that I guess Lori was close to, or some. She said that she was really worried she was going to be killed soon. And police do say, after whatever evidence they found that we really haven't seen, that Zulema is lucky she's alive. But yeah, Alex died of supposed natural causes. Now, Lori was finally arrested in February 2020, and she had felony charges of desertion and non-support of dependent children. So the courts finally said, you need to bring your children to us by this date, or we are going to assume you don't know where they are. So she was arrested, and Chad later on was also arrested. On June 9th, 2020.
Tonight, the grandparents of two Idaho children missing since September say their bodies have been found, but police not confirming they are the remains of 17-year-old Tylee Ryan and her brother 7-year-old JJ Vallow, discovered during a search at Chad Daybell's home, their mother's new husband.
Ironically enough, around the time that these kids would have been buried here, Alex Cox's phone pinged off these towers, and they were both charged in the death of Tylee Ryan, the death of JJ Vallow, the death of Tammy Daybell. There is a lot that has happened since I filmed my video last time. On October 5th, 2021, Judge Stephen Boyce ruled for the trial to be moved from Fremont County to Ada County. Clearly, this is to cause least amount of bias, and the Idaho Supreme Court approved. And then on October 7th, 2021, the Chandler, Arizona police released their whole case file on Charles Vallow for the investigation. And it had a lot. It had video interviews, audio recordings, text messages, and police reports. Now let's talk about Lori's side of the trial. Now, as of today, they are still being tried together, and Chad's case has been quite delayed because Lori was deemed mentally incompetent for trial pretty much as soon as she was arrested around June 2021. She ended up receiving treatment in a mental facility in Idaho, and her lawyer Jim Archibald has described her mental health as extremely complex and fragile. And 3 months after this, Judge Stephen Boyce extends her stay for another 180 days. So on April 11th, 2022, Lori was deemed mentally competent for trial. Yeah, about 10 months she was mentally ill for trial. She was ordered to be released from the Department of Health and Welfare, and she had to be arraigned because she actually never was arraigned for her crimes. So then the court date has been set for January 2023. On April 19th, Lori was finally arraigned for her crimes, where she chose to take a vow of silence and wouldn't enter a plea at all. So the judge ended up just giving her a not guilty plea. Larry, Kay, and Tylee's aunt were at this hearing. Larry said he was happy with the progress because this means that it's finally moving forward. Think about how long they have waited for justice for JJ already. I mean, they have been looking for him since 2019, and at this point it's already 2022. He said that nobody deserved what happened to these children, especially, and Charles and Tammy. All for what? Money? Some delusion? It was all just not worth it. And Kay even opened up saying that it was really hard seeing Lori because there was a point that she loved her. She trusted her with her life. She trusted her with JJ. And it was just hard to see her after everything that had happened. And on May 4th, Lori qualified for capital punishment. And this was because of the murders being so violent and numerous, and also just it seemed to be for financial gain because of the social security money she was collecting on these kids. And on August 6th, she appeared in court smiling. She was wearing a band on her ring finger, so she definitely considers herself still married and loyal to Chad, but she continued to stay silent and only answering when necessary. So let's talk a little bit about Chad's side of the trial. Chad pleads not guilty, claimed he was framed, that his property is large, and that he doesn't have security cameras on his property at all times. So somebody must have snuck on there and buried the kids without him knowing. And it is very clear, I mean allegedly, but it's very clear that he's just going to blame everything on Lori and Alex. Does that really surprise you? Like I said, this man's a coward, right? So on October 13th, there was a court hearing that John Pryor argued multiple things over. He wanted the case severed from Lori's case. He tried to say it deprived Chad's constitutional rights being tried with Lori, and John wanted to use in his case all these things about Lori and Alex, and how could he do that when they're being tried together? And he really planned to talk about Alex's death. So guess what? We were all right. He's planning on blaming it all on Lori and Alex. And then he also asked to postpone this trial until later in 2023. He said he needs proper time to prepare, that January 2023 was way too soon now that Lori was competent. He's going to need time to get witnesses, experts, and all these things on the stuff he's about to find out that Lori's going to start saying, admitting to, talking to her lawyers about. And he argued this is a death penalty case. These are to be tried way more thoroughly. They are supposed to take a longer time because we are taking people's lives. This is people's lives at risk. So there needs to be enough time as possible. So let's talk about a little bit of the details of the case altogether. I would almost guarantee that Lori's side is also just going to blame everything on Alex, and possibly Chad, but I would definitely say Alex is a good possibility. Now, the case will take 10 weeks. I think 2 of those weeks choosing jurors, but I'm not exactly sure. And there is up to 104 people on the potential witness list right now. So who knows? what we're going to hear and from who. Now, on March 21st, 2022, Judge Stephen Boyce denies having the trial separated. He thinks that they should be together. Most of the evidence is going to be exactly the same. Most of the witnesses are going to be the same. The victims are the same. Like, there's not much that's different, and it's kind of a waste of time of the courts to do it separately when they're just going to be seeing the exact same thing both times. On May 2nd, it is officially announced by prosecutors that they plan to pursue the death penalty on both Chad and Lori. So on July 18th, the prosecutors do ask to have a type of testing done on a few more items. Now, they wanted to test the fingerprints on the adhesive side of the tape that was on JJ, some dark spots that were found on a pickaxe and shovel that were seen in the garage barn type area, and swabs of tape areas. Now, this type of DNA testing would be consumptive DNA, and it would end up destroying all evidence after this. So that's why they're having this hearing, because that's a big deal. So on August 30th, Lori's team files a motion to ban cameras in the courtroom. Lori's team claims the media has abused their right to being in the courtroom because they would do things like zoomed in really close on Lori's face and just staying there like the whole court hearing. So it was like they were almost antagonizing her and also just trying to like watch for every little small detail of her face moving at whatever time and try to, cause rumors and things like that. Obviously, news medias were outraged because this case is huge. There were more than 30 news outlets that have been looking into this case and have been to these proceedings. And you're just saying now, nope, we don't want any type of news outlets in the courtroom. But the media outlets have argued that, the public has the right to court proceedings and how they're being held. So, yeah, Larry and Kay have said that they do want the news in there because they believe that everyone should know every single thing that happened in this case. Exactly what happened to Tylee and JJ, to Charles, to Tammy, to what could have happened to Brandon, what happened to Alex, what happened to Joseph Ryan. But on September 23rd, Judge Stephen Boyce did ban cameras for being in the courtroom. He does not want any video or still photography at all. He does say that audio can be in the courtroom, so that is a good thing. People will probably be able to live stream just audio to us. He did say because of how high profile the case this is, he did worry that it would cause an unfair trial and it would just really harm the chance of picking a fair jury. And on October 5th, Judge Stephen Boyce ended up suspending their trial until further notice because they need to make sure that Lori is mentally competent to stand trial. And once again, John Pryor has now filed a motion stating that he wants to sever Chad and Lori's case. He just claims that their cases are drastically different the more we find out, but I doubt that the judge will sever their case. I mean, he's already said no once. Now, there is a little bit that happened around Colby that, we have to talk about, right? But just a reminder that everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So take this last part with a grain of salt. Now, Colby is a father now. He has 2 children. And in April, he actually published his own book. It's called The Gods Over Odds. And it's about how his faith helped him through this disaster of a time of his life. Can you imagine just being an outsider of all this, just looking in? He was terrified when he couldn't get a hold of Tylee. But he was arrested in September in Maricopa County, Arizona. Just a trigger warning that there is assault that's not in massive detail explained, but still explained. He was charged with 2 counts of assault. This was a woman that he dated, but they had broken up, and she claimed that he her while they were watching TV at her house. Now, the police did say he said something similar to them when he was arresting her that kind of sounded like he might be admitting it. So the judge sets his bond at $10,000. But by September 9th, the charges were dropped. Now, they were dropped without prejudice, which means if they find any other evidence, they can bring him back to court for this. It's not just like the investigation's still going, but they did let him go and decide there was not enough evidence to prove that he did anything. And one thing I wanted to talk about that I thought was really interesting, in one of the interviews of Larry and Kay, they talk about being upset that they haven't been able to bury the children yet. Yeah, the children are still in police custody. And Larry even said, JJ's in a freezer somewhere. And that, like, oh my God, that broke my heart, because he is, you know, and there's reasons that it makes sense for them to keep them, but it would be so hard, like so hard as a family to not want to like give them a funeral. But yeah, that is all the updates I have found on the Lori and Chad Daybell case. Have you guys heard anything else? I really, really wish that cameras were not banned, but I'm hoping to listen to the audio of this court case whenever it decides to be, since they've suspended it until further notice. But it should be interesting. I wonder what all we're going to find out. All because they thought the world was going to end in July 2020. I guess their lives ended. I mean, they were in jail by June, right? Interesting. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe for me, and hit that notification button. That way you're notified the next time I upload. Also, I have a GoFundMe page for Crystal Young. Please go and donate to that. And go watch that video on her. It's extremely interesting and insane that they barely did anything in this investigation. And also, on top of that, I have those stickers still for sale that I send the money to the Cold Case Foundation. Everything, all proceeds are completely donated to them. And I can't wait to get back to a regular uploading schedule. Thanks for bearing with me, because college is hard. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!